Hello, everyone. I'm Gian, and this is Wales FM Fireside Chat with Artists. In this show, we talk about everything and anything art and crypto in the NFT scene with designers and creators alike. My guest today is Alberto Mielgo, who is a director, animator, and painter. 4 times Emmy Award winner who has worked with the likes of Sony, Disney, and Netflix. Hey, Alberto, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks. That was a really cool intro.
Thank you for evaluating my intro, man.
Yeah, that was really cool intro. I love it.
It's it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure and an honor to have the opportunity to have a conversation with you. And I would like to get started. If you could give us a brief introduction about your how how did you got started with art in general? Do you have any formal education in the field? When did it click?
Right. I do not have any formal education um, at all. I am self-taught, and I started basically at the age of very early. Like I have drawings when I was like maybe 4 or 5, and I remember my father at some point when I didn't even know how to read. He was kind of like describing what the characters in the vignettes were saying in comic books, and I was just going through the images, and I remember loving that. And I remember at the very early age I wanted to be a comic book artist, and I even have a record of it. Like I wrote a letter. Probably I was about 9 or something like that. I wrote a letter to a publishing company demanding to be published, and and I was saying like I have a very cool comic book. Here is one of the pages, and I draw the page in the letter.
Oh my God.
Panel after panel, and they answered. They were so kind, and they answered, and basically they encouraged me to continue. Maybe maybe not this time. I don't know exactly what they say, but
Mhm.
we have a copy of the answer. So I was just trying from very early age. I wanted to be a professional at the age of 9. I was kind of like, why I cannot be published? I don't understand. It was
You
just like that.
demanded to be published at 9 years old.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I thought that I had something very strong there. I thought that I had
Mhm.
something that it would change the industry. Maybe I don't know. I really don't know what were my expectations, but my letter was very much like, I have something here that is the shit, guys. You need to check it out.
And I mean, if you got a response from them, you certainly impressed them with something.
Yeah, I mean, of course, who wouldn't? Like, I have actually a lot of people writing, especially students, and sometimes it's like many times I'm super busy. I cannot even open it or take care of it. But sometimes you have to respond because
Mhm.
they seem genuine and really cool people, and also some of them they are like, wow, this guy is already talented, or this girl is like, wow, it's incredible what she's able to do, and she's just starting school. It's almost like sometimes you want to say like, don't get into school, like try to start working as soon as possible.
Mhm. Mhm. So, okay, clearly it's been a long time.
Yeah.
How has it evolved over time? Your art, your style.
Yeah. So because I was very kind of obsessed about comic books and animation, I started working in a studio when I was 17 as an animator, and I had very cool skills already because you remember at school, I don't know, maybe you have someone or maybe yourself. I was like doing flip books in the corner of my books, and
Mhm.
and I was basically constantly doing that, and I developed skills in animation and learning the the art of motion, and then I start very early, like with 17 in this studio, and kind of like 3-4 years later, when I was 22, I started working already in DreamWorks animation, which was a very big step for my age. But this was a little bit of like my first kind of like big downer or failure per se, because all of a sudden digital art 3D took over, right? Like all the art that we were doing, that it was mainly 2D. All the big studios, they say like, fuck it, we're not gonna do Aladdin anymore. There is no more 2D. We're gonna do computer generator movies. And I had to reinvent myself, and it was cool because I was young. I was 22. I know cases of that like much older people that it ruined their life, and I don't know, like very sad scenarios as well. But with 22, obviously I had to go into the, you know, working into coffee places, restaurants, and all sort of things in order to pay my bills. At the same time that I bought my first computer, which for the new generations, saying that a person is buying his first computer in life at the age of 21, 22, it seems extremely late. But, you know, we are talking about different times. Like I remember when I was looking for jobs, I went to this coffee place where they were having internet, and I was asking, hey, I'm looking for a job, do you know how to search for work in internet? And the guy told me, yeah, there is this new thing called Google that you just type things here. So it seems a while ago, but it's not that far away, you know. It's like basically 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's quick.
Yeah, it was so quick. So I remember, that was my first sort of like bad step into the art world, but then was quickly corrected because I started basically messing around with Photoshop and painting in Photoshop, and I actually learned how to paint and learn the language of color in Photoshop, and then later on I jumped into oils, and I love both. And in my work I usually mix media a lot. Like sometimes I put acrylics or oils or pencil or whatever, by using all the technologies that I have at hand, which is what I really like about digital art. And it's handmade, you know. At the end of the day, it's handmade. I find that saying that something is computer generated is a little bit ugly. I think that it's almost as silly as saying this is pencil generated, you know, if you do a drawing.
Yeah, it's misleading, right?
It is. I think that perhaps Sophia the robot is the only perhaps work that we can say that is truly computer generated, but I don't know, it's because it's fully generated by artificial intelligence right now. So that's perhaps the only work that I could say that you can really say is computer generated.
Oh yeah. So having bought your first computer like 22, 20 something, and going through all of this, figuring out on Photoshop, this also must have evolved, right? Animation and 3D stuff is quite demanding. Nowadays, what sort of equipment do you use?
Well, that's a very good question. We use all sort of programs now, but you know, I'm very fascinated right now with Houdini, just because it's a software that allows us to do a lot of things there. Mostly we were using Maya in my previous projects, but it's kind of like old and too big, you know. And I'm not very big fan of Autodesk, I must say. Not their politics. It's just like dealing with them and the licenses. Sometimes it's a little bit unfriendly. But Houdini I love. And then, you know, I like to explore with programs that people don't believe that they are good for production. You know, like for The Witness, I was using this program for cloth simulation that is called Marvelous Designer, which is a Korean software that was originally created to do fashion design, and but they have such an incredible dynamics that I say like, wow, I want to put this in animation. It's like I want to have my characters animated very well, but I'm going to have this incredible software, and it's not ready for um, pipeline, for production pipeline, because it's a fashion program. But now it's improved much more. But at the time that
Mm-hmm.
we were doing this, it was not really ready, and we were doing a lot of tests, and people, they were like discouraging me a lot, and they were trying to push me to use the traditional Encloth or some other
Wait,
softwares.
but
Yeah.
the clothing on the animation is used with that then.
Uh, Cloth in animation is used with a lot of softwares now. Even Houdini has
Mm-hmm.
cloth, and there is another one. It was called Encloth, and even Maya has also some system that is very unfriendly. But
But in
yeah,
the
it's,
witness.
in the Witness we did fully with a Marvelous designer. Which, just as an anecdote, when Marvelous saw the film, they were asking Netflix which software did we use to use Marvelous, and I mean to do the cloth. And Netflix told them, let me ask them, and we exchanged some words, and we told them, no, we did it with your program. They're like, no way, that's impossible. Even
Mm-hmm.
them, and I have really cool relations with them now, because they are super nice. They are super nice, and that software is amazing.
No, it is. This short movie is just insane. Everyone needs to check out. Like seriously, The Witness, part of Love Death Robots. Uh, yeah, it's funny because the clothing is very notable, very
Yeah.
notable. I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I'm very proud of the film itself. Yeah, the cloth is something really good looking, and it helps also for the animation. You see something that is moving, that is flawless, is something that I really like to put in my work. And I
Hmm.
personally love fashion as well, so it's a nice way of, like, maybe involving a brand, or when you are doing a movie, things like that, or fashion designers, or in this case I was using an stylist, just to bring this kind of like crazy aesthetics of for the
Hmm.
girl.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, what are some art movements slash artists that inspired you in your
Other
journey?
artists that inspire me,
Mm-hmm.
uh I mean, I would say the most inspiring thing for me is cinema. I think that's it was a point in which I was watching a lot of animation and comic books, and like, obviously, artists like Moebius, or these comics like Tintin, Asterix, Lucky Luke, things that they were like amazing. But at some point in my career, I started getting very snobby into films, because my sister, uh, she's 4 years older than me, and I remember watching, Bergman movies, or Kieslowski's movies when I was 12 or something like that. Something that definitely is not for a kid that age. But for some reason, I started loving it, and then I started changing towards, film more than anything. I start really liking good filmmakers, good movies, American film from the 70s. Um, all that is usually my biggest inspiration. So I would say it's more live action. But in terms of art, like, obviously, classical painters are usually the things that I usually look, which is Velázquez, or even Gustav Klimt,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
yeah, things that they are like, wow, remarkable. And in terms of digital art, I would say that a lot of the digital artists that I really like, they are not in the space yet. They are like massive influence in the digital world that I think that, I hope that they do it, but they are like an older generation right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know even if they would like to get into the NFT, but we have people like Craig Mullins is like a massive influence for all of us. He actually helped developing Photoshop, in fact, and he's dude, that guy was like, I mean, there is a little bit of Craig Mullins in all of us, and also another huge influence that I have is called Neil Ross, which artistic name is Limbolo, and same thing, like an older person than me, like a couple of generations, I mean one generation at least ahead of mine, but his work is so refreshing and so new, and the way that he used digital, I have not seen it anywhere else, and these two are like huge influence as well in my work.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, there is so many, right? It's funny to say, like, they're not in the NFT space yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. exactly. But at least, their work is digital and is easily archivable, which is one of the things that I really like about this whole NFT universe and all this super exciting digital world. Is for me something that I find extremely interesting is the possibility of archiving works officially as well. That's one of my biggest kind of like excitements about this whole thing.
Yeah. No, yeah, I was going through your stuff. I'm now gonna skip a little bit of my structure, but I was going through your stuff, and you were like very passionate about like the fact, I don't know, like, do you struggle with the degradation of your pieces, your oil on canvas?
Yes. I do struggle. The same that I struggle when I look at myself in the fucking mirror, and it's like, oh my God, 20 years passed by. It is, everything unfortunately has a decade, and everything is dying from the moment that is born. I mean, it's like this baby is one day closer to that. I mean, this is a very pessimistic way of seeing it, but it's also beautiful. Everything is aging, and this is actually what inspired my drop. Basically, the fact that I saw some of my paintings, and some of them they are damaged, and I usually scan my paintings like super high resolution just in case I sell them or I depart from them, and I realized that the scans, they don't have the damage, of course, because I usually scan them like 2 weeks after completion, maybe a little bit more because oil takes a little bit longer to get dry. And then I realized that, oh my God, so it was a little bit of an epiphany, because I wanted to really do something for the NFT community, and in a way I wanted to do it a little bit more educational as well for people that they don't understand too well what is this about NFT and what is this about digital art, because I have a lot of friends that they think that a painting is the same thing that we were saying before, it's computer generated. So it's like, oh, but do you draw, like, so what, do you press a button and the painting appears? There is still people that they have these beliefs. So I wanted to do something a little bit educational for also the people that they don't know it, and also for the people that maybe are criticizing it as well, because there is a lot of cynicism as well about the whole thing, and and it pisses me off because this is something that I've been struggling all my career, like just trying to prove that, no, wait a minute, it's funny because I'm gonna tell you something. A few years ago, as an artist, depending on where are you talking, you were maybe a little bit ashamed of saying that this is a computer work. Just to put an example, as a painter, I've been trying to get into standard galleries forever, right? Like, you try to get into galleries, talk to the front desk and say like, look, I'm a painter. And then you put together some sort of like a portfolio. in which me personally, I had to remove very amazing jobs that I did, like work for Disney, work for whatever, because I knew that I will be judged in the art world. And they will be like, oh my God, this nerd here is gonna try to sell some paintings in my snobby fucking gallery. Right.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
definitely.
and now it's almost is now is the opposite, right? Now it's almost like the revenge of the nerds. It's almost like now the galleries, they're trying to get into this path, and that's something that I find fascinating. Like, oh, wait a minute, I thought that you guys thought that this was not cool, and now you can see, like the big names in art. I mean, I don't want to mention anything, but the big names in the art world now, they are like stepping into this thing.
Oh yeah, no, they look and they say, no, I want a piece of the pie for sure.
100%. Yeah, and they are getting big pieces. That's the fun.
Oh
that's the
yeah,
fun thing.
yeah, as of anything. But I love that you say that you try to do something educational, because to be honest, I was very impressed. I just posted for people the video that you made about the draw.
Yeah, the second one.
Because it's very, very, very good introduction. And working with this, we're trying to introduce people, trying to bring people into this space. This is probably one of the best that I ever saw.
Wow, thank you so much.
No, for sure, man. Yeah, I posted. Everyone check that out. I know, like, people who are already here, they don't need it, but I think people will agree. It's a very good introduction. You got the point across, and you made
Yeah.
You've made new points that I haven't thought about. And this is where I ask, like, oh my God, are you struggling with the decay of the pieces? Because you seem very emotional about it. It makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, it hurts. I mean, not even about my pieces. When you go to a museum and you see your favorite painters, and then you get close of the painting, you see like a crack, or you see that the canvas is in no good condition. And you see people transporting the paintings from one room to another, and it's almost like moving a super old person. Like, you need the help of like a trolley, 5 or 6 people with gloves and masks. You cannot cough or do anything in front of the painting, just in case, they are extremely delicate. Artwork is, physical artwork is extremely, extremely delicate.
So you are already a very plural artist, having tried animation, comics, oil on canvas, and like even more stuff that I've found. What are some other art forms that you tried? Maybe some that you haven't even
Yeah, I guess music.
anything.
Well, actually, I try music. I try music, in fact. Like, my sister is a piano teacher, and my parents, they got me into music very early. My parents, they are kind of like blue collar. All of them, they are not very much into the art world at all. But for some reason, they kind of push us to do that. But music didn't grow on me because it was very strict method, and I had to study, and I have to practice, and it was not creative enough for me, I suppose. I mean, I'm trying to analyze why music never grew on me as a player, like why I try piano and I fail, why I try guitar and I fail, and why I try classical bass, the big contrabass, and I fail also. Is because it was a lot of practice there. And it's funny because my career of painting is basically training and training and training, and that's what music is. But I guess that painting was way more creative. I can do whatever I wanted. I guess that if my parents decide to take me into some sort of like a class or like an academy of art, most likely I guarantee that we will not have this conversation right now. Probably I will be doing something else.
No, yeah, I think it's funny because art, yes, there's a lot of repetition in art when you're learning, right? But it never feels like you need to go ultra far to be able to be creative. In music's like, I need to go through this much, and then maybe it will be able to be creative. In art, yes, you're copying, but you can already be creative from the get-go, right? Somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, but it's something that fascinates me though is the amount of melodies that you can create and they don't even look similar to anything that we hear before. That's something that really fucks my brain. Like basically we have 7 notes, right? And there, I mean, actually, 12, I think, right? Because we have the ones in the middle. And people is able to do melodies and melodies that you never hear before. It's like, how is it possible that just with 12 combinations, obviously with rhythm and tempo, and how can you create so many different melodies, you know? And they will be creating more melodies. It's pretty fascinating that.
Oh yeah, it's the complexity that derives from simplicity. I love that. So something that I noticed, and maybe don't let me project this. If I'm wrong, tell me that I'm wrong.
Project it. Go ahead.
Your animations tend to be very colorful, saturated, with plenty of neon elements, characters that have exaggerated proportions. And in contrast, your oil canvas usually have colder tones, more pastels, and some sense of realism. Is this an intended contrast? How do you explore both directions?
I think that nobody ever asked me that before. So my answer is going to be genuine and very improvised. I think that I'm not as brave in painting, sometimes painting analog, as I am with computers, because as I say in my intro, computer gives you the possibility of undo, so you can try and try and try. But when you paint oils, first of all, to prepare an oil takes a while. You need to prepare the canvas, you need to let it dry, do another pass of gesso, do the drawing, which usually takes a while, and then you start painting. I am very obsessed with technique and depicting with what I want. And there's no much chances to improvise there, because if you fucked it up, you fucked the canvas, you fuck all the work that you did. So I believe that in animation, I don't have that problem. And, you know, it's like, let's do something that is crazy colorful. But I never got myself into that world with oils. Like I never got myself into a guy jumping out of the building with tons of neons. I don't know. I guess it's that, but also it's because maybe my themes for oil are different. Maybe I'm like some sort of like having like 2 personalities. You know, one is my animation one, and the other one maybe is the traditional painter, more academic, perhaps.
No,
but that's true. I need to explore that because nobody ever told me that. It's really a very good point.
No, I mean, man, you're the artist. I'm not suggesting anything. It's just what I saw, you know.
You just put some virus on my brain. Now I need to figure what's the meaning of this. Seriously, artists, we are extremely sensitive. You know, like all these things. Like we tend to overanalyze a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely. No, we do. We want to extract meaning of when there is none. Sometimes there's just none.
Yeah, exactly. And it's fine.
No, yeah, but I feel there's... Yeah, real life art makes me anxious just to think that I will fuck it up. And like the time, it's...
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So when dealing with real life art, you're constantly dealing with the nature of the materials, right? Be it fighting it, controlling, guiding, or letting yourself be guided. The same doesn't happen quite as much in digital art. What are the trade-offs? What are you looking for in the 2 different medias?
Well, most of the time, my digital art, I usually use it for usually it's for film and or to create frames or to do art direction in films, and I think that the flexibility is that, right, that you can really undo, and you don't need to mix. That doesn't smell. You need to clean after the fact. um, but in the traditional media is actually the opposite. So I guess that, not to be redundant for what I said before, but I guess that, yeah, the answer is that perhaps yes, I'm using the art for two different things. I'm definitely using digital art for a completely different thing when I'm doing traditional media. And you said something very cool here, which is like you are fighting. That's very much what you do when you do digital as well. You need to understand that we struggle a lot. It's not always like easy. Sometimes you feel like, okay, I understand what I'm looking at, and my hand is going along, and I totally understand the technique. And many other times, I don't know what it is. Sometimes it's the hours that you slept or whatever you ate the day before, that your body is sleepy and is not able to comprehend the technique that it was so easy the day before, and it's very frustrating. And historically, we have a lot of cases of frustrated painters, like Van Gogh, for example. He was really struggling with his technique constantly, and you can see it, right? Like, it's something that
Yeah.
fascinates me, that he is not a super amazing gifted painter, and he struggles a lot, and up to a point that was his major torture in life. But in the other hand, he had this very particular and interesting taste, which is as good as having an incredible technique. Sometimes it's even more. I think that taste says everything in art. Sometimes painters, they have the best technique ever, and they just paint the most corny, cheesy thing ever. So yeah, that's very much it's a fight. It's definitely is a fight, and it's not easy. It's total artisany. It's a lot of time training. It's a lot of time training and frustrating yourself. It's hell, but we love it. I mean, I personally love it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, right? Otherwise, why would anyone, right, continue?
Yeah,
Especially when the thing of animation is such a big exercise of patience.
yeah, yeah. You don't even know. Oh my god.
It's
Yes.
insane. I don't, I can't imagine going through that. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And now we have, obviously, uh, technology, but I mean, the teams are huge. I mean, my team now, we are doing another short film, which is super sophisticated in terms of like effects and software, and we are already close to 65 people. And if you're talking about Disney big feature film, when we do those, we are like easily 300 people.
Oh my god.
Yeah, actually imagine the amount of software,
Mm-hmm.
machines,
Mm-hmm.
all the equipment that we need running non-stop is huge, and it takes like easily 5-6 years to make a whole film.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think, that why NFT is also interesting, because as a filmmaker, I know that a film is going to take me 5 to 6 years, and between projects you might spend like 2 years, just trying to pitch for something or preparing something. And if we digital artists, we have the chance to make a living with very cool pieces that we can actually do a turnaround, definitely not in 5 years, that we can actually spend like what a usual artist do for a living, like maybe take us one day, or take us a week, or maybe take us a month. But
Mm-hmm.
if we can do that, instead of like constantly selling our souls to these big corporations, like Marvel, Disney, just selling everything to them for nothing, or for for hourly rates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If we can focus ourselves in creating something really cool for our next project, rather than jumping into another corporation, I think that this is also something phenomenal about this
Mm-hmm.
new industry. I don't know if I should call it industry. I think it's ugly to say industry, right? Like the
Yeah,
NFT industry. No, sounds bad.
maybe it is, but it's funny because yeah, you say like there's so much people, and by the end of it, most of them won't even have the opportunity to receive the recognition, right?
Hmm.
Um, and then in the NFT space, it's you and it's what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, that's really cool what it enables in that sense. It's funny that you mentioned the size of the team because the next thing that I wanted to ask, we don't get to have many directors. So what I want to know is like when you are directing, you're not just manipulating the piece itself anymore. You're
Yeah.
manipulating it through people, and you're manipulating that people. Uh,
Right.
how does that work, and has it changed your perspective and your approach in regards to the art that you do by yourself?
Um, well, that's actually a very good question. One thing is to manage a big team, and another thing for sure is to work just by yourself. I have to say though that I'm a little bit of like a psychopath, and I work a lot myself. In the projects that I get involved, there is a huge amount of work that I do by myself. But of course, when you are in a feature, you cannot do that. Like for example, I did this short film. It's called The Windshield Wiper, in which I did all the paintings there. But it's 15 minutes, and it's kind of like I can do that. But if you are talking about a long feature film where you need to do, who knows, like maybe 1,000 paintings, but at the same time you need to design characters, etc., etc. You need to get surrounded by people that they have similar sensitivity, or people that you can train as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what has been happening over the years. I have a really incredible team with me that they've been working for the last, who knows, maybe some of them they've been with me for maybe 9 or 10 years, since I was doing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So we evolved together, and that's pretty cool. Like we need to achieve basically like a compromise of an style. Actually, no, I wouldn't say compromise, because I don't want people to compromise. I want them to achieve what I want, right? So basically, we all work in a very strong art direction. So I usually spend like maybe, when I was working in Spider-Verse, I was basically like about 6 months by myself, just creating artwork, painting, and exploring before I got involved with my team. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a way of doing it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to change. Can you still hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
your
nice.
voice changed a lot,
Yeah. You
but
hear
it's
me
good.
better now?
Yes, in fact, I can hear you better. Yes.
No way. It was bad before.
It wasn't bad, but this is better, I think.
Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's just that my phone is gonna die, and I put it charging, and maybe these stupid headphones, they were not good.
Oh, it. I mean, it wasn't bad.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Oh my god. Let's repeat the whole thing again.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're going back. um. All right. So this is an interesting one because you learned by yourself, right? But animation, it has so many principles like that you kind of have to oblige, right? To look believable, to make sense to the human perception.
Yeah.
But you have this principle of trying to bring innovation into animation, right? How do you go about pushing the boundaries? What are the difficulties?
Right. Difficulties are huge, I have to say, especially when you are dealing with big corporations or when you are dealing with a deadline. And I'm going to explain both. When you deal with a big corporation that has a way of doing their things, it has a pipeline, and basically a pipeline is a factory, right? Like, like you first do the drawings and then somebody color them up and then they put them in, it's like a whole factory thing. I'm explaining it very badly, but simple.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, Pixar and Disney, they created this very successful pipeline, up to a point that every single film that we've seen in animation for the last, I would say, 15 years, it looks very similar. It almost looks made by the same company. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why is because this pipeline is very successful, and it's a cool way of doing, say, cookies, right? And then everybody's doing the same cookie because it's successful. We know how to do it, and we know that the cookie is gonna taste nice. So that's basically what animation studios are doing. But the only way that you can actually really innovate and do something new and interesting is if you break that pipeline. And that means doing things differently. That means using another software. That means bringing another type of artist. And most important, having interesting ideas and cool approaches. And most of it in imagination as well. The problem with that is that, corporations, same as a cookie factory, they don't want to change their machinery. They don't want to change the ingredients because they have already deals with the market, with the softwares, or with the chocolate chip maker, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's very much the struggle of trying to do something different in animation. So usually when you get in a big corporation, it's a constant fight, because obviously they like what you do, but they want to do it their way. And then the other one is the deadlines. Obviously, because the project perhaps needs to be finished by a certain date. Unfortunately, studios, they cannot go for very innovative pipelines because that put at risk the entire project and the deadline. So
Mm-hmm.
even myself as a creator, sometimes you need to give some concessions, even though I push the boundaries like constantly. Sometimes it's like, okay, fuck, let's let it go like this. And but I always try to paint on top or to do something interesting, whatever. So that's basically the struggle. But yeah, I will never wanted to do a painting, I'm sorry, a movie that looks like the other ones. I always want to create my own style, and I don't want to share too much how I do it either, because I don't want other studios to all of a sudden start ripping it off.
Yes. No, you're right. Yeah, because eventually, like those who push the boundary, if you go take a look, like Miyazaki, for instance, like eventually it gets incorporated, right?
Yeah, of
Uh,
course.
mm-hmm.
Of
Over
course it
time.
does. Of course it does. I mean, I totally see a huge influence with the Spider-Verse, the film, in the rest of the things that are happening in animation. Like maybe the non-expert eye don't realize, but I see a lot of purples, a lot of like comic book kind of style everywhere. In any kind of
Mm-hmm.
like in animation thing. And as an artist, as a creator, sometimes this is, oh cool, you were putting a little bit of an imprint here, is nice, but also it hurts because you don't have the 300 millions to make the next film. You are just waiting to have somebody that is going to give you the 300 millions to do the
Yes.
next film. And these people sometimes they are faster than you, and it almost feels like a little rape, but I wouldn't use that word, but a little bit like, yeah, something like that. It's just like these people, they can go ahead and do it before you.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then you lose the point, right? You lose
Yeah,
the point if you're doing after. Mm-hmm.
exactly. You lose the point if you're doing after. It's so frustrating. You
Yeah,
cannot claim like, hey, I did it before. I didn't release it before, but I thought about it.
Yes, I was working on it, but I didn't have the same means, right? Yeah, no, that must suck, man.
Yeah, it does. It
And
really
there
does.
is one here. I don't know. But on that note, do you talk about this one, or we just ignore this one here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. Exactly. This is this, but this was like a super incredible experience. I mean, I loved it.
Dude, you worked on this. This is insane. This is
Yeah, yeah,
insane.
yeah. Yeah, that I was the production designer on that film,
Mm-hmm.
and well, it was really good. I mean, I was a production designer, earlier production designer. Later, Sony and me, we didn't get kind of like in the same page about how to do the film. Basically, what I was telling you about changing the pipeline, and we both kind of like mutually decide, like, okay, Sony and myself, right? We
Mm-hmm.
decide that uh, go in different ways, but it's cool because the artists, they loved what we were doing there, and they preserved the vision as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, they had to do this film by themselves after I left, and they did an amazing job. And they didn't do the film that I wanted to do, but that's cool as well. It's like my version lives in another dimension, and this film is about dimension. So I think that probably there is a version of my film somewhere else, and the
Mm-hmm.
version that people have is the one that these guys did, and is remarkable. I mean, they got an Oscar, and it's like, or we got an Oscar. I mean, I should include myself as well.
Yeah, of course. No,
Yeah,
I like that thought. I like that thought. It lives somewhere, right? Yeah,
yeah, 100%.
that's really cool. That's really, really cool.
Thank you.
Also, so there was this, this. Usually, I don't talk as much backstage, but I had to say I remember so vividly the animations of the Beatles Rock Band game, and I
Yeah,
was mind blown that I got the opportunity to talk with the person who was responsible by them, and like, dude, it's just amazing. I love that. And there was something that you said about like loving animation more than the other arts because it's a combination of all of them, right?
yeah,
Uh, and when this, for example, it involves music, right? It involves the Beatles.
yeah,
Uh, so definitely is an example of combining all of them. How are
yeah,
you on this?
yeah. I mean, animation is a combination of every single art that you can imagine, like, period. Like, there is no art that is in a film of animation, or in a piece of animation, either like 8 minutes or 80 minutes film. There is like drawing, there is painting, there is now with 3D, obviously, it's a sculpture, acting, music, storytelling, writing. uh, Absolutely every single art is there. There's no art that is not in an animation piece, and that's what I really like about animation. Is the huge amount of things that you can do there, and all the things that you can touch. So it's almost like, yeah, I would say it's the purest art for me, the purest art form, I would say.
Yeah, dude. It's this one is amazing. It's just amazing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we were having a lot of fun um, doing this project, and I mean, it was such an honor, obviously, because we were dealing with such an incredible um, heritage for history, which is the Beatles,
Hmm.
and it was such a cool project. And as I tell you, like a little bit before this, I told you that uh, Paul McCartney was really loving it, and we were having the chance to talk and to show them the artwork. It was such a huge honor. Yeah, that was amazing.
Dude, it blew my mind. Just to have the opportunity to work with them, to show them that must have been amazing. It's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's very cool when you think that somebody that is that influential and that big in history, they they saw your film or they saw your art, it still is feeling almost like very incredible. But at the same time, it's just normal people as well, right? That they do the same thing as everybody else. Like they consume art and they watch films or they read a book. It's somehow people that they achieve so much in life, as for example, you will say the Beatles, in terms of what they did in music. You almost feel that they are like impossible to approach or impossible to touch, right?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah, definitely. But talking about recognition, yourself, you got 4 Emmys. How did it
yeah,
feel?
yeah. Well, I mean, my that feels almost absurd. But that's something that happened here in America, and I really like that because like it's a country that really recognized talent or people trying to do something different. I think that that's something that I really appreciate. Like basically, I think I got my first Emmy buys after being here for like a couple of years or something like that. So it was like, oh my god, this is a really good welcome. So
Mhm.
I think that that's good, that they really promote what is good for them. It's like, okay, you are a good artist, you are talented, come with us, we want you here. I think that that's good. We don't do that, for example, in my country, in Spain.
Mhm.
We tend to do the opposite, unfortunately. Like people that they are successful, they usually get criticized. It's a little bit, yeah, I don't know if it's part of the Mediterranean culture or wherever. I mean, I don't want to offend anybody, but I am full Spanish, so I mean, it's like this doesn't offend me.
I think it's fine.
Yeah. Usually, like very successful people, they are like, "Oh my god, this successful guy. Oh, so you're a successful guy." It's that sort of
Mhm.
like attitude in any case. So there is a lot of cases in which you need to leave your country in order to achieve success, and then when you come back is when you get treated seriously. But it makes sense also because in your country, I mean, in my case, in Spain, I didn't have as many opportunities. It was just like as soon as I left Spain, all of a sudden I was in front of projects like this one, right? All of a sudden you can work for the Beatles. All of a sudden you can have a meeting with Paramount Pictures, things that they don't obviously happen in a country that doesn't have this industry.
Yeah, no, definitely. But they, of course, they were insanely well deserved by you, and yeah, it
Thank you
makes
so much.
sense. It makes sense. It makes sense. Something on the other end of things, we haven't touched this much, just a little bit. Are you also collecting NFTs?
Not yet, not yet.
Hmm.
But I really want to. But I almost want. There's a lot of people that they are not in NFT yet that I really want to get them there. There's.
Hmm.
I mean, a lot of the things that I really like, they're like almost impossible for me right now. And I suppose that I'm probably gonna be in a situation at some point in my life that maybe I cannot even afford my own NFTs. Who knows? That, that
Yes,
becomes.
possible.
It is very. I mean, that's what happened with a lot of artists that they are killing it now. It's just like, I mean, if they try to buy one of their pieces, probably that's it. That they cannot afford anything else. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because their pieces are so massive. But I am checking a lot, and I am very particular, and I have very particular taste, and I follow a lot of cool things that I like in Instagram mostly. Like my platform mostly to follow art is Instagram, and I have my eye on many people, but so far I cannot get them yet. But there are some artists like the ones that I was telling you, like Craig Mullins or Neil Ross, that I definitely would like, like to maybe create my own little taste on what I collect. I think that will be my thing. But I definitely would love to do it. I have to say though that I never collect art. at all before, even traditional art. Like I never bought anything except for maybe, like you go to a opening of a friend, of course, and then you buy some drawing or whatever. But I don't think that artists, we are known as being big collectors. I think that maybe, I mean, I suppose that there are cases, but I guess that, big artists, they have big pieces of art because maybe there is exchange of art. That would be
Mm-hmm.
beautiful if we artists can do that in the NFT, exchanging and then have collections because we are exchanging privately between us. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't see, I, I never saw myself like a collector in art. But I totally see a cool way of doing it because I understand digital art, which is something that, for example, I do not understand that much abstract art, and
Mm-hmm.
it's funny how people, they are criticizing the concept of NFT because it feels very abstract, and then I'm like, dude, but you've been buying abstract art for like a fucking century, and sometimes you buy a painting, you don't know if you can put it upside down and it works the same, and then
Yes.
you've been paying millions for that and nobody says anything.
Mm-hmm. You're so
And
right.
yeah,
Now, so NFT is anything that you're putting it, right? Like,
yeah. But there is also a lot of abstract NFT now, which are, I mean, there are some things that are fascinating. I mean, I really like what I'm seeing out there. There are some things that they are like really well curated and very well thought. There are some things that they seem sometimes like created in a rush, but I
mm-hmm.
suppose that, that's what computer software gives you, right? It's like there is a lot of people that they can get just from a library. You can get a face, you can put some liquid on top and then throw some renders, and then it looks fairly okay. But myself, I work in very sophisticated industry, which is the industry of animation. We really push the boundaries on software. So I can really see when an image is really well done, and when an image is like, wow, this is fucking phenomenal, and when an image is just like done quickly, just mixing few things from a library. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that that I'm very aware as well.
No, yeah, that's a very good point. I guess working with so many people and having to like go through so much work, like I guess you kind of develop a sense, right, uh, of what is done quickly and what has a lot of thought into it. It's a
Yeah, yeah.
it's a good sense to have in this space, to be honest.
I think so. I think so. I mean, it's the same as a musician, right? You get a musician that has like incredible technique and very good ear, and you put them in front of a band that, maybe they are obviously horrible and but successful. And
Hmm.
then he will be like, I don't understand how this is happening. Why this guy is kind of like, is basically going against the rules of Mozart and Beethoven, or but
Hmm.
like people choose, the audience choose.
Yeah, definitely. So, on that note, where do you see your work uh, in 5 to 10 years, and what do you think the crypto art space will look like?
Okay, my work, I maybe in 5 years, maybe I'm gonna have couple of movies, but I've already told that I doubt it because that's what it takes to make a movie. 5 years. Um, I really want to, in terms of the crypto art. I have few um, drops already, sort of like aligned and planned for actually this year. But one of them is, I think, too sophisticated, and I don't think that. I mean, the NFT world is not ready for it yet. And I'm asking and I'm talking with people, but that's not possible yet. So I wonder how this is going to evolve, and I wonder how, like, if the size of the files, if the duration of the files, that's something that we can definitely work. That's something that I really would like to see in the crypto world. The thing about the crypto world in the future, what I really like is that it's bringing new reach and new minds, and that's very, very important. There's a lot of critiques that we are receiving, and but I understand that there is a lot of new people that they have benevolent intentions, that I want them, especially people in science and people in technology, that I definitely want them to be billionaires. Like, forget millionaires. Like, I want them to be billionaires. And it's, if art can help on that, like if one of these guys, they can actually get pieces and turn them into millions of money, but all of a sudden we are getting a new Elon Musk, or a person that is going to create a new type of energy or a new type of something that is going to blow our mind. That's what I really like about crypto, the new thinking and the new mentalities.
Well, very well put. Very, very well put. I want to be mindful of your time, so
Yes.
I have a few audience questions,
Nice.
but there's one that before that.
No
I
problem
love.
with my time. It's cool, man. I'm
I,
enjoying.
all right, good, good. There's one that I love to ask, but oftentimes I don't get an honest answer. We'll
Okay.
see how this one goes. From all the work that you have done that is now public, what's your favorite?
That is not public?
That is public.
Oh, that is public? What is my favorite?
Mm-hmm.
I would say, well, I have two, but I would say The Witness for sure right now. The film for Love, Death and Robots.
Yeah, that's fair. That is, it's just amazing. That's just amazing. Definitely can see that.
Yeah, it's just that it's very personal as well, and very much represents some sort of like a toxic relationship, and that's something that sometimes you get in those where you cannot actually leave, and that creates a loop between you and your lover or whatever, and that's very much what The Witness is. So it's very personal, and it's the first film that I directed and wrote and designed entirely, so it's very significant for me.
Dude, how much time did it took? Because it has a level of attention to detail. Like it's pretty amazing. Let's put
Thank
it
you. It took from the first word that I wrote of it to the last frame that we deliver exactly. That's probably like a year and a month, more or less, I would say. And this just for, I think it's 12 minutes of animation. So yeah, it takes long, but I mean, production usually is faster. Is pre-production and writing and deals and negotiations the one that usually delay quite a lot, because once you start doing like pre-production, you start creating your characters, your assets, all the shaders, all that stuff is, if it's well produced, it goes relatively quick, and then animation, everything happening, and then post-production later. But there is, like, I would say that maybe 50% of the time that we spend doing a film is kind of like back and forth in writing, and negotiation, and trying to find deals, etc., etc.
Yeah, it makes sense, because you can't go as far as to have something done to show, but you have to have something that is enough to show, right, and convince.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's cool. I didn't want to add anything else. That's cool.
All right, so on to the audience questions. Oh my god, I thought, okay, audience questions are going to be quick. This guy literally asked, what do you think makes good, dynamic, impactful animation?
Why do I think what?
What do you think makes good, dynamic, and impactful animation?
Okay. The thing is that I don't know if good animation has to forcibly be dynamic and impactful in order to be good. I think that in my case, what I like about animation is, first of all, if you talk about the technique, you just need to do a good animation in order to create the trick of movement. If you are talking about a good film, what it makes a good film is a lot of factors, like a good story, good aesthetics, and some and that the people do not question the decisions of the characters. It's like, okay, yeah, I understand why she's doing it, or if I don't understand it, it's because, wow, I really don't understand what she's doing, but I like it, or I get it. So
Hmm.
I guess that if you're talking about technique of animation, it's obviously good technique, and so you have good dynamics. If you're talking about what it makes a good, impactful, and dynamic animation as a film, the same rules as what it makes a good film.
Hmm. Hmm. I thought this one would be insanely long explanation, but you managed to make it just summarize it well.
I mean, it's just like what it makes a good salad: good ingredients and good dressing, right? I suppose.
Yes. Yes. All right. Oh, this is a bit of a funny one.
All
What
right.
is the most deep analysis regarding stuff that you have done, like about your art, that you yourself thought, what? How did they saw that kind of thing
Uh, like, but about my art or about any sort of other art?
about your art?
And what is the? I don't think I understand the question. What is the longest analysis?
It's the deepest. It's like the deepest analysis.
Oh, about things
Uh,
that I did.
yes,
That's
that
a
you
good
thought to
question.
yourself like, what?
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good question actually, because I am amazed about this. In fact, because I I don't have a reason most of the times, a clear reason of why I do things. I just want to do a specific painting. Like, for example, what you have here is these two paintings. They are like the two empty interiors. Uh, I I I didn't know why I was painting this, but I was going through a breakup or on a relationship, and my paintings, they were just empty interiors, so it was very meaningful, and I was even titling it like that. But it was 1 or 2 years later when I was checking the paintings, and I realized, oh wow, I felt very empty at the time, and that's what I was feeling like painting. So there's a lot of my work. There are epiphanies that they come later on, and I usually let my I usually trust myself on that. Like, I don't question too much. Okay, why do I want to do this now? It's like, boom, just go ahead and do it. And then later on, or maybe while I am working on it, I start finding meanings, and then I start shaping the whole piece around those meanings. But I usually let it go first, loose, and then I catch up later with it.
That's really cool, man. That's really cool, man. No, I was really impressed by these pieces. Should be very honest with you.
Nice.
And also, it was really good to hear you talking about the meaning on the witness, um, and what it meant to you. It's
Yeah.
really cool to have this opportunity.
Tot-
Uh, Someone asked, it sounds like you like to push the boundaries. I want to know how you plan to push the boundaries of NFTs.
Nice. Um, well, I was. I mean, I suppose that you guys know already that that was my first drop ever, and it was very much. It it is a very known media because I am very familiar with the digital concept. But it was my first time getting into a platform where I'm not necessarily as known as I am in the industry of animation, for example. So you know, you need to be a little bit humble when you get into this and realize that, as ambitious as you want to be, and as ambitious that your ideas can be, you need to introduce them perhaps step by step. I wanted to, like, for example, I wanted to bring something that is, for example, uh, the stuff is not ready for it yet because we don't have the capacity there.
Mhm.
So I would like to explore, yeah, like much longer formats, for example, or things like that, or perhaps one day I decide to do something really simple and very minimal and very personal, and something that maybe people really connect with it. But from a from the point of view that I mean, from the perspective that I am new on this, and I want to really explore it uh, cautiously. Like I wanna see what really means. And for me, the most important thing right now for NFT is the fact of, like, the possibility of throwing a work that is gonna be there maybe forever, and comparing it with the physical object that usually is dying. Right now, that's my biggest interest, and 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 I think that trying to do something very sophisticated, which is what I want to do, and I really need to know more about the environment that I am stepping in.
Mhm. Mhm. No, yeah. I mean, over time, if you have always been a self learner, I'm pretty sure the more familiar you are, the more you will be able to push the boundaries.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And of course, talking with people, and it's the uh, same thing that I literally had a meeting with Disney a few hours ago, for example, or like, you need to have those sort of talks as well with people in the platform if you're gonna really expand a lot. But as I say, I don't know um, how much I want to spend. I have like a lot of ideas, and I have a lot of like super challenging, almost like philosophical conundrums in this media about digital, that I want to present out there, and I want to solve, and I want to challenge people as well. I It's not only like challenging for myself. I also want to challenge the audience in the NFT world with new things, and make them think, and make them argue, and make them discuss about things. I think that that's the beauty of art.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Wow. No, I had a blast talking with you, but
Thank you.
all good things must come to an end. It it was an honor, really. I really appreciate you taking your time to be here, and I'm sure the community does as well. I was seeing a very, very positive feedback. People love the witness. Uh, I mean, what's not to love? So
Nice.
I hope you enjoy your time here as much as I did, because it was just
Thank you
so.
so
Thank you.
much. Thank you so much. I Let's stay in touch, and thank you everybody that has been
Oh
listening to this
yes,
as well.
yes. You have to keep us updated on the next drops. So all right, everyone on the community. It was a pleasure have you guys here as well, watching and bringing us very good questions. So thank you all, and I see you guys next time. Bye bye.